Welcome to episode number 23 of the Dugout Report. I am here with Shaun Kernahan talking the College World Series regionals and looking ahead to previewing the super regional teams and the biggest games to keep an eye on. So welcome.
What's going on, Alex? Thank you for having me on.
So my first question is, what was the biggest regional games that stood out to you over the weekend, including Friday?
I mean, is there any doubt that Clemson Tennessee game, that 14 inning shootout that had everybody's attention on Saturday night, um, was without question the game of the weekend. Um, the Saturday night regional weekend is always the one of my favorite days on the sports calendar every year. It didn't disappoint this year. Um, Going 13 innings, you and I were talking during it a little bit, and I think I mentioned to you, or I put it out on a tweet. I don't remember which way, but the fact that Clemson, had to come back and play a game less than 13 hours after that 14 inning marathon ended, didn't bode well for him, especially losing Cam Cannarella and due to the ejection, which is has its own debate there. Uh, it was one of those that it lived up to the hype, and then it really impacted that regional. Um, who I think whoever lost that game is going to end up losing to Charlotte that next morning, just because of the timing and the fact that Clemson lost kind of their energy guy and their leadoff guy. Certainly didn't help, and sure enough, they lost to Charlotte that next morning.
What were your initial thoughts on Indiana State's epic win over Iowa?
The first win against Iowa, when Iowa had Brody Brecht on the mound, that was huge. The Brody Brecht is one of the most dominant pitchers when he's really on his game in college baseball. They ended up stealing that one. Indiana State, or sorry, Iowa works their way back through the winners bracket, gets back to Indiana State, and Indiana State does it again. Um, so, it was. So yeah, it was really interesting. Really, it great job on Indiana State. A little bit bummed for Terre Haute that they're not going to be able to host the Super Regional. Props to them. They have, I think it was a 51-year relationship with the Special Olympics, and they are honoring that and not going for the money grab that is the Super Regionals. So that Super Regional is going to be down in TCU, but Terre Haute was a great host, it seemed like, and Indiana State proved to be deserving.
Mhm. What are your thoughts on Wake Forest?
They're the best team in the country, and they proved it yet again. I mean, I don't have the scores in front of me, but I did think they won every game by double digits. I know they put up double digit runs in every game. There wasn't a game that was close. Um, Maryland is a good team, and they beat them down. Absolutely demolished them. They faced George Mason twice, made them look like a 4 seed both times, and made themselves look like number 1 seed. Um, you know, Wake Forest's nickname is Wake Forest for a reason. They absolutely hammer the ball. Um, but they've got one of the best pitching staffs in the country as well. I initially coming into the tournament, thought that Florida was going to end up winning the national championship. I no longer feel that way. I think Wake is going to roll through this tournament. They are just that
Mhm.
good.
What are your thoughts on Florida, South Carolina, and Virginia?
Florida, South Carolina, and Virginia. Was that the question
Yeah,
there? All right, cool.
yeah.
Um, you know, one of the Florida's main weakness is going to be their bullpen. It showed up again. Phil Abner just couldn't find the zone. They've got three incredible starters, uh, which is good now. That I mean, the Super Regional facing South Carolina, they can lean on those three starters. They just need the 3 games. Um, They end up having to go through the losers bracket and play, a bunch of games this weekend, and had to dive deep into the pitching staff this coming weekend. They can roll out their big three, and hope they really hold on and don't put too much pressure on the bullpen, and then we roll to and then figure out in the College World Series. I think they're in a good shape this weekend. South Carolina, really good team. Uh, they got Will Sanders out on the mound again just to kind of get him, see if he's right. He's had an up and down season. Um, they've got plenty of bats. Ethan Petrie at one point was the best player in the country. He's a true freshman. He's cooled down quite a bit. I think South Carolina, really good team. Um, I don't think that's a great matchup for them against Florida this weekend. And then Virginia, I mean, they're going to face an ACC foe in Duke, playing that one at home. Kyle Teal, best catcher in the country. They've got some quality arms. Um, I think Virginia is in good shape. Duke had kind of a up and down year. They didn't have the traditional Duke dominant season that they often do. They ended up at 35-21 on the year. Didn't end up ranked, but they've got Alex Mooney at shortstop. They've got veteran guys like Damon Lux on that team, and so there's plenty of talent there. But again, I think Virginia's in really good shape against Duke this weekend.
What were your thoughts on yesterday's Game 7 games?
Lots of fun. Game sevens are always great. They didn't end up being the most competitive, all on the edge of your seat. Um, a lot of them had a few runs there. Overall, Florida did what they needed to do. Uh, really putting on Texas Tech. You come into it, Arkansas. What happened? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they just got beat by TCU in consecutive games. Uh, or sorry, two of the three games they've met each other this tournament. Um, TCU did a heck of a job. Uh, that Arkansas team is talented, but the long ball happened. TCU absolutely mashed it. It was a good weekend. It was good. It was a good Monday. Not the closest of games. Um, even the late night one, Texas A&M Stanford was back and forth a little bit early on, and then Stanford just kind of pulled away. Um, Overall, it was good baseball yesterday, but on those Monday game sevens, but just nothing like you get on that Saturday. None of the quite the craziness, no massive comebacks, anything like that. But definitely some good baseball, and it looked like the best teams all came through. Arkansas obviously would have been favored against TCU, but TCU outplayed them uh, by a lot in their three total games.
My next question is, what are your thoughts on the Super Regionals, on the matchups, and specifically South Carolina, Florida, and Virginia and Duke?
Yeah, like I touched on it briefly. I think Florida is gonna really be in great shape there against South Carolina, going with their three pitchers and being able to go a little bit deeper there. I think Florida's in great shape. Virginia Duke is going to be a really good matchup. Virginia absolutely has the edge, but I think that you know Duke is a scrappy team. There's going to be I would not be surprised at all to see that. Let me double check if they're a Saturday start or a Friday start. They are a Friday start, so I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them go into Sunday on a game three. Because four of the series start on Friday, four of the series start on Saturday, so it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday. Sorry, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday one. Uh, good matchup. It's actually one kicking off both days, so we'll all be able to see them early, noon Eastern, and I think that it'll be a good matchup. I don't recall how Duke did against them in the regular season, but good matchup. But I think Virginia definitely has the edge. Maybe the biggest news coming in to Super Regional Weekend that came out less than an hour before we started recording here. The Southern Miss Tennessee region. Southern Miss was announced as going to be the host, not Tennessee, even though Tennessee had a higher RPI and came out of a bracket that was higher ranked. With Clemson, ranked fourth, and Auburn was ranked 13th. So it was the fourth ranked bracket versus the 13th ranked bracket. Again, Tennessee had a higher RPI. It looks like there's maybe some weather rolling into Hattiesburg on Saturday, and Tennessee fans will all point to all these situations as why they should have been the host, but ultimately NCAA chose Southern Miss to host that one. It will definitely be an interesting one there. Let's see here. The other matchups: Indiana State, TCU. It'd be fun to see what Indiana State can do. I would love to see them against Arkansas, but obviously TCU was just dominant there. Um, Love to see Indiana State host, but of course I mentioned the Special Olympics. So down at TCU there, Oregon, didn't come into the weekend expecting Oregon to be a host, as they win that Nashville regional. Oral Roberts is the only 4 seed that made it through, and they're going to be, they Squeeze Play was talking about it all weekend. They're not a real 4 seed. They're not. They are an excellent team. You don't go 46-11 for no reason. They've got Cade Denton in the back of that bullpen, Jonah Cox, All-American type season. That's gonna be a fun one. Let's take it here. Wake against Alabama again. I mentioned. I think Wake is far and away the best in the country. Got LSU and Kentucky. Kentucky had a good weekend, but LSU looked great in there. So I think LSU should be in good shape. And then Texas Stanford, two blue bloods historically in college baseball, should be a blast to watch that one as well.
So what games will you be tuning into on Friday?
I mean, other than all of them, the nice thing on Fridays is actually be a little bit easier to follow than Saturday will be. You've got Duke, Virginia at noon, and then Indiana State, TCU at 5, South Carolina, Florida at 6, and then Oral Roberts, Oregon at 8. So not too much of an overlap. Maybe that right on that 8 o'clock Eastern hour, you might still get the finish of one game. With the other ones, if I was to only pick one game, it would end up being South Carolina, Florida. Just the star power on the field there. Interested to see who Florida rolls out there as their the number one that day. Is it going to be Waldrop? Is it going to be Sprout? I think they're going to save Jack Cagliona for Sunday if they need him, but definitely going to be the best matchup there between the South Carolina and Florida. I think that's a great matchup.
It should be a very full fun Friday and weekend, and can't wait for all the action to begin. And thank you so much for hopping on to talk college baseball, and hope to have you on back soon to recap everything that happened over the weekend.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.